Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be going over another budget deck, and this time it's going to be a blue budget deck that's centered around the Garurumon tribal theme. So we got a lot of new and powerful tools from BT05 that's enhancing and interacting with this theme, and we have the blue starter deck to act as a really good base or foundation to give us a really solid Garurumon evolution line. So between the two, we could really create a very interesting and very powerful deck that could be spun in a whole bunch of different directions, all depending on the playstyles you want to double down and enforce on, and the other cards you want to support the deck with. So going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Upamon. So this is probably going to be one of the most expensive cards to get, but this is just a really good card to utilize all around, just because it's acting as a really good card draw engine in the Digitama slot. So what this card is doing is the fact that it has a nice when attacking ability where it only triggers once per turn, where if an opponent's Digimon has no Digivolution sources in it in play, then you get to draw one card, and drawing cards to help with the deck's overall consistency is always just a really good thing. But the main Digitama of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Tsunomon. So this is the BT05 version of Tsunomon, and Tsunomon is really good for the deck just because he has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, while this Digimon has Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, then it gets plus 1000 DP. So blue isn't known for having really good ways of DP boosting their Digimon, so Tsunomon being one of the best ways that we have to do that job just makes it really good, and based on the style of deck that we are playing, we definitely want our Digimon to be as strong as they possibly can when attacking into the opponent's Digimon or the opponent's security. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT05 version of Gabumon, and this Gabumon is really good because he has this nice powerful on-play ability where you get to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and then add one Digimon with Guruman in its name and one Digimon with Omnimon in its name from among them into your hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is just your stereotypical digger where you're just looking for Omnimons and Garurumons. We're not going to be playing any Omnimons because this is a budget deck, but there are plenty of Garurumons that we still have to be targeting with this card, making it a really good consistency tool for the deck to be using. Next up, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Syakomon. So Syakomon is a pretty interesting Digimon to be running just because it is a more matchup dependent card because of its native ability where during the opponent's turn, the opponent can't reduce Digivolution costs. So there are just a couple of different decks in a couple of different colors that want to reduce their Digimon's Digivolution costs, and this is a really good card for those matchups, shutting out that strategy, making their deck less efficient than it normally would be, because the whole point of reducing the evolution cost is to take those inefficient cards and make them more efficient, or take the efficient cards and make them hyper efficient. So shutting those out and having a possibility shutting those out is a really powerful thing to be playing around with. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gomamon. So Gomamon is just a really efficient rookie to be running overall just because it has some really good stats. So it has a very low play cost, low evo cost, and decent DP, just making it a really good card to be running. Most people would run something like Elecmon in this space, but if you already have the blue starter deck, then this does the exact same thing at no additional cost to you. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the starter deck version of Gabumon, and this Gabumon is pretty good because it has this nice inheritable ability where when attacking, you get to trash the Digivolution source at the bottom of one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 5 or lower. So this is just really good because it allows you to pick off the opponent's inheritable sources, thus taking away some of their abilities, potentially making their Digimon that much weaker, and that's just really good, especially when this is not locked to once per turn. So if we're able to swing multiple times with the same Digimon with Gabumon as the inheritable, then we'll be able to trigger it multiple times, thus adding to the card's overall playability, and it interacts with the fact that we want the opponent's Digimon to have no Digivolution sources to trigger various abilities, on top of it being a Gabumon by name, which does matter for the deck, and it plays with a couple of other cards in the deck, just making this a very fantastic card to be using. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Garurumon. So this is the BT05 version of Guruman, and this Guruman is why we want to have a couple of different Gabumons in the deck, just because it has this nice when Digivolving ability, where if we Digivolved him on top of a Gabumon, then we get to gain 1 memory. So this is just really good because if we just have a Gabumon sitting on the field, he basically can Digivolve for 1, but we do have to keep in mind that this does not trigger in the raising area, so we can't Digivolve for 1 in the raising, but a Gabumon on the field isn't necessarily the most uncommon thing that's going to be happening with this deck, so it's just still a really good ability to utilize just because it makes this Garurumon very efficient to Digivolve into. And then on top of that, it also has another ability where its inheritable ability is an all turns ability, which is already looking to be pretty strong, where while this Digimon has a Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, then it gets plus 1000 DP. So its inheritable is basically acting as a permanent 1000 DP boost, as long as the Digimon he Digivolves into is a Omnimon or Garurumon, which we're playing a whole bunch of different Garurumons, making this card very good to be using. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Coelamon. So Coelamon is going to be acting as the deck's dedicated blocker. You could run Grizzlymon in this slot if you really felt like it, but I really like what Coelamon is doing just because Coelamon is a slightly more efficient card to Digivolve into than Grizzlymon. So the only real reason why I'm playing this card is because it has the low Digivolution cost of 1, just making it very tempo efficient. So if we just need to get into a quick blocker, then this is a really good card to do that with. But Grizzlymon is also just another really good blocker you could be playing around with. So if you wanted to do a split or just run one or the other, it doesn't necessarily matter because at the end of the day, this is just the dedicated blocker for the deck. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Garurumon. So this is the starter deck version of Garurumon, and this Garurumon is doing almost the exact same thing as Gabumon over here, where it has the nice inheritable ability of, when attacking, trash the Digivolution source at the bottom of one of the opponent's Digimon. So the big difference is the fact that this isn't level restricted, so you could target the level 6s, you could target the level 7s with this ability, and just making sure that you could pick off the abilities, making sure that they have no inheritable sources to trigger some of your various other effects potentially, just makes this really, really good, on top of it not being locked to once per turn. So again, if you can multi-attack, then it just makes this card even more powerful to be using. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of WereGarurumon Sagittarius mode. So WereGarurumon Sagittarius mode is looking to be a very powerful Digimon to be using in this deck just because of all of the different ways we could use this card. So the first big thing to note is he does have the unique ability where he could Digivolve on top of a level 5 for 1 or a level 4 for 3. So the level 4 evolution cost is about normal, but the fact that we could use him on top of our level 5s to make our level 6s that much stronger is looking to be very, very powerful, on top of which the fact that we could use him as basically like a pseudo-mega is also very, very interesting, considering we have different ways of utilizing this card with some of the other cards that we could be playing with. So what this card is doing natively that's making him so strong is the fact that he has this nice ability where during your turn, while a Digimon with WereGarurumon in its name is in this card's inheritable sources, then this Digimon gains the jamming ability. So this is just really good because yes, you can Digivolve him on top of himself, but we could use our other WereGarurumons to ensure that this card is going to have the jamming ability to safely aggress onto the opponent's security. And then on top of that, he also has a nice inheritable ability where during all turns, while this Digimon has Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, then it gets plus 1000 DP. DP boosting is actually important in this deck, so that just makes this Digimon a very powerful Digimon to be using for the deck. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of WereGarurumon. So this is the starter deck version of WereGarurumon, and this is really good because of how much power and potential this card could bring to the deck. So what he's doing is, yes, he is a WereGarurumon, so he is going to be synergizing and interacting with Sagittarius mode. And on top of that, he has this nice inheritable ability where during your turn, while the opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources in it in play, then this Digimon gains Security Attack +1. So this is just really powerful just because it adds a lot of pressure onto our Digimon to aggress onto the opponent's security, adding more damage output to the deck, which is just looking to be very good as a whole, considering we could pair that up with our Megas to make our Megas even stronger. We could pair it up with WereGarurumon Sagittarius mode to give him Security Attack +1 and jamming, and we have a whole bunch of different ways on our lower levels, like our starter deck Garurumon and Gabumon, to pick off the inheritable sources to ensure that this ability is going to be going off. So this is just a very powerful card to be utilizing just because it's adding a lot of extra damage to the deck overall, and it has a couple of different ways we could utilize it. Next, on to the Megas, I'm going to be running 3 copies of ZeedGarurumon. So ZeedGarurumon is just a really good card just because it has high levels of synergy with the deck. So what this card is doing first is we're playing it mainly because it has a nice when Digivolving ability of Digiburst 2. So for trashing 2 of our inheritable sources, we get to return one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon back to their hand. So this is really important just because blue doesn't have the best forms of removal. So the fact that we have some form of removal on a Digimon body is looking to be pretty good. And then on top of the Digimon body being already naturally really strong with 12,000 DP, it also has Garurumon in its name, thus triggering all of our Garurumon synergies. So all of those elements combined just make ZeedGarurumon a really good card to be running for this style of deck. But the main mega of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Metal Garurumon. So this is the starter deck version of Metal Garurumon, and this card is absolutely insane for this deck to be utilizing just because of how powerful this card can be. So what this card is doing is it has the nice simple ability of when attacking once per turn, unsuspend this Digimon. So you could use this unsuspend offensively or defensively. Defensively means you're just holding it back in an unsuspended state, so that way they can't attack into you. But you could use it offensively to get a second swing in, which is looking to be pretty powerful considering we have cards like WereGarurumon to just give it security tech +1, and it interacts with our Garurumon and Gabumon from the starter deck, allowing their abilities to trigger multiple times, allowing us to get that security tech +1 more consistently. Or if we want, we could even pair it up with Sagittarius and the BT05 Garurumon to make him naturally even stronger than he normally would be, thus making it harder for the opponent to try to hit back into him when we get our second swing in. So this card is just looking to be very powerful to be using with the deck overall, no matter how you build the card, and on top of which he is a Garurumon, so he does have all of the Garurumon synergies, making him a very good card to be using for the deck. Next, on to the options, I'm only going to be running 4 copies of Hammer Spark. So Hammer Spark is still probably one of the best, if not the best, blue option we currently have to be playing around with, and what's making this card so good is the fact that it has the nice main ability of gaining us 1 memory. So us gaining that 1 memory is actually really important just because it can make certain plays possible that weren't before, and that is just what's powerful about the card, is the opponent might not be anticipating a Hammer Spark into a more powerful play that they weren't expecting. And then on top of that, it also has a really nice security ability where you get to gain 2 memory, which basically means you're taking away 2 memory from the opponent, which is just really, really powerful because it could set the opponent off on their play just because now they don't have the proper memory that they were expecting to work with. Or it could be even as powerful as forcing the opponent to end their turn just because they were at a low memory count, they checked Hammer Spark and security, and then the memory goes over to us, which means it will be our turn. So Hammer Spark is just a very powerful option to be using for the deck still. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Sora and Joe. So if you want, this could be a memory fixing tamer. It doesn't necessarily matter just because Sora and Joe is acting almost like a memory fixing tamer. So what this card is doing is its first ability is at the start of your turn. If the opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources in it in play, then we get to gain 2 memory. So this is really good because this ability does stack, so the more Sora and Joes we have, the more memory we could possibly gain off of the combination of all of them, and it's not like it's impossible to see an opponent with a Digimon with no Digivolution sources on their field, considering part of the sub-theme of this deck is attacking into those Digivolution sources with our abilities of our starter deck Gabumon and our starter deck Garurumon. And then on top of that, Sora and Joe's second effect plays into the first ability, where during your turn, when you attack with one of your blue Digimon, then you could suspend this tamer to trash the bottom 2 Digivolution sources off of one of the opponent's Digimon. So this is just really good because, again, it's fitting in with that sub-theme of attacking the opponent's inheritables, and again, as I mentioned before, this could help trigger its first ability, and it could help trigger our WereGarurumon, so that way we could always ensure that we're going to be gaining the security tech +1 off of the Garurumon, making our Metal Garurumon or our ZeedGarurumon or even our WereGarurumon Sagittarius mode be able to deal as much damage as they possibly can. So this is just a very fantastic tamer to be using for the deck for all of those reasons. And then the last card and last tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Nokia. So Nokia is another really good tamer for this deck to be using, just because she is a slightly more efficient tamer to be playing with a play cost of 3, and she even has a nice on-play ability where we get to play one of our Agumons or Gabumons from our hand for free. So the best Gabumon that we have to be playing off of her ability is going to be the BT05 Gabumon, because we will get its on-play ability, which is looking to be pretty good because its on-play ability is helping the overall consistency of the deck. But at worst, if we need to, we could hard play the starter deck Gabumon just because it is still a Gabumon that we're going to be playing for free off of Nokia. So just the on-play ability is already looking to be pretty good, but the main reason why we're going to be playing Nokia is for her main ability, where when you Digivolve one of your Digimon into a Garurumon, Greymon, or Omnimon from your hand, then you get to suspend this tamer to reduce the memory cost of that Digivolution by 1. So this is just making our Digivolutions on the field that much more tempo efficient, just because it is reducing the evolution cost. So it's making something like Metal Garurumon, which ordinarily has a relatively high evolution cost, have a slightly lower one, and that's just really good because the opponent might not be anticipating a Metal Garurumon coming out for 3, being able to swing for 4 security checks, and having some increased DP thanks to some of our other cards. So there's just a lot of different ways that we could use this card to make our Digimon even more efficient than they were before, thus adding to the overall power of the deck. And all of that synergy combined is just the reason why we're running Nokia and why Nokia is such a good card for the deck. And then there's just so much other things that you could do with the deck to really customize and change it and upgrade it to whatever you want and however you feel like you want to play it. So if you want to play a little bit more into the hybrid sub-theme, then you could play Strabimon just to try to dig out your hybrid cards. Then you have Globomon, which helps make Ancient Garurumon, which is a Garurumon, more playable. And then you also have Lobomon to just round everything out, just because this card can help close out the game for the opponent having very low levels of security or no security at all. And then Davis is looking to be the best memory fixing tamer that we have access to, so you could also consider running him for higher levels of consistency. And then on top of that, you also have a more Gabumon-focused sub-theme, where you could take it into just because of how good Nokia can be. So this Gabumon to help us draw a card is really good, or if we want to double down on attacking the opponent's inheritables, then we have the promo to help do that as well. Then with our other Gabumons, we also have more Garurumons that we could play. So we could play the promo Garurumon to try to help us draw cards, and that's just really good because drawing cards helps with the overall consistency of the deck. And we also have the promo WereGarurumon, which is really powerful because he natively has a multi-attacking ability himself, as long as he's Digivolved on top of a Garurumon, which we have a whole bunch of really powerful Garurumons to synergize with him. And on top of that, he also gives the nice inheritable ability of Security Attack +1, as long as you have 8 or more cards in your hand. So that's just another way of giving Security Attack +1, and it's looking to be very powerful just because blue has a lot of good consistent card draw. Then we have some other Metal Garurumons to synergize with. So we have the BT01 Metal Garurumon that we can consider, just because his when attacking ability allowing us to play a level 4 underneath him for free is really powerful, just because splitting the stack means we could try to Digivolve up into a new stack, and thanks to Nokia making us a little bit more tempo efficient, if we're Digivolving into Garurumons, then we could turbo up into a second stack really quickly, making it just very good on top of its native synergy with the BT01 Garurumon to just get another attack off, and that could be pretty decent. Or you could consider utilizing the new Metal Garurumon just because it is acting as some form of removal for the opponent having on delete abilities on their Digimon. So it'll tuck those to the bottom, and that's just really powerful because it won't trigger the on delete abilities while getting rid of the body. And on top of that, it also has a nice inheritable ability if you are planning on playing level 7s of allowing them to gain 1 memory when they're attacking, which we do have a couple of different level 7s that we could be playing with. So Blitz Omnimon is probably the best Omnimon that we could be playing with, just because the Blitz mechanic is really, really powerful, allowing us to try to close out the game that much more efficiently with. And on top of that, he also has a when Digivolving ability of unsuspending the Digimon, allowing us to actually utilize the Blitz mechanic, and he even has built-in protection on top of all of that, just making him the best Omnimon we could be playing with. But if you wanted to, we also do have access to the OG Omnimon for some really good form of removal, and we also could utilize his multi-attacking ability with the security attack +1, so that could be really good there. And we also have Omnimon X Antibody, just to act as, again, another really good Omnimon to be considering for his removal when attacking ability, and his own native ability to basically protect you from the opponent's attacks, thus allowing you to stall a little bit longer. Then we also have some really good generic cards that you could consider playing, so you could consider playing Grizzlymon, just because, as I mentioned before, it's just acting as a really good blocker, and the 6000 DP actually could matter, making it less susceptible to a lot of removal that's currently in the game. And you also have Mach Galgamon to consider, just because if you're not looking for the hard Garurumon synergies, Mach Galgamon is absolutely fantastic because of his Digiburst ability to remove one of the opponent's level 4s back to the hand. So that's just already looking to be pretty good, and his inheritable is giving your Digimon plus 2000 DP as long as you have a tamer in play. It's not even color specific, so that's just really good DP boosting on top of removal. Then we even have Hexablaumon to be considering playing with it, just because if you are doubling down and playing with the removing of inheritable sources, this is one of the best payout cards to fit with that strategy. So having him have jamming and turn off the opponent's Digimon from attacking or blocking is just really, really powerful. And then we do have some other good options that we could consider running, just all depending on what you feel like you're going to be playing around with. So if you are trying to attack the opponent's inheritable sources, Absolute Blast is really good. It'll put a Digimon with no inheritable sources to the bottom of the opponent's deck, on top of it natively getting rid of one of the opponent's inheritables. So that's just, again, very strong. Or you could consider just playing something more neutral, like Cocytus Breath, to just generically bounce any Digimon back to the opponent's hand. Then, if you really want to be super cheeky and cute, you could also consider playing Mega Digimon Fusion. So if you are planning on using the OG Omnimon, then this card synergizes with the OG Omnimon very nicely. And then some other white tamers you could consider playing with Mega Digimon Fusion, or just as some just generically decent white tamers, are going to be Takumi, just because you're looking to gain the ability to draw more cards for you just literally Digivolving, which is really good. And then on top of that, you also have Tai and Matt, which is another duo tamer that's gaining you 2 memory at the start of your turn, except the condition is if the opponent has the level 6 or higher in play. And on top of that, it also allows your Omnimons to gain security attack +1, allowing you to deal more potential damage. So there's just a lot that you could do with the deck, both on a budget and outside of a budget, all thanks to the new Garurumon synergies that BT05 is adding. And I think no matter which way you take the deck in either of the directions that you could go, it's still going to be a relatively fun and decent deck to be playing around with. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.